Way back to 1976, Charlie's Angels. Mm, ee, mm. I was just a kid when Charlie's Angels was on. I mean, quite young. It started when I was 3 years of age. And so I really honestly don't remember much about the original TV series. And I remember it was a big deal. I think my brother had one of the pinup posters. He was older than me. And I remember people talking about it much more than I was younger and I was a lot more into Star Trek and Buck Rogers and other stuff than I was anything like a detective show. But in 2000, when Charlie's Angels, the movie came out, being a fan of Drew Barrymore, as many men of my generation are, I went and saw it. And um, it's the one with Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz. And what I really liked about that movie was that it seemed to be a continuation, to the best as I could tell. You got the sense that there'd been many sets of angels over the years. There had been more than one Bosley. So Bosley was now clearly a code name. It was like being M in James Bond. But it was a good movie. And now going back and watching the pilot episode of Charlie's Angels from my position now, I was kind of surprised at what was left out of the movie. Now, that often happens when they do a continuation or a reboot in the future, things get changed or altered or left out. The movie gave the impression that the girls, the women chosen to be angels, were chosen because of specific specialties that they had. No real explanation was given for them all being female. However, the original Charlie's Angels, you really get it. Well, they leave you the impression that all three of them had various skills and done very well at the police academy before being recruited. There seems to be an implication, given what's going on in 1976, that perhaps they didn't get the kind of role in the police department that they would have liked to because they were ladies. And so the detective agency either, to intentionally be progressive or because they're looking for people with this skill set that are available and the ladies are available because they're not being utilized by the police department. It isn't real clear, but they recruit these ladies and assign them to these special cases and these missions. And they all have these various skills and do very well. So there's an oddly more, slightly more feminist bent to the 1976 original series than there is to the movie itself, despite all of it, the sort of, by then, cliche girl power stuff that's in the Drew Barrymore movie version. But it's definitely interesting to watch. Now, it is one of the series that what I did, because I'm not trying to binge 20 years worth of shows in a short time. I'm going to pick which ones I want to go back and watch for fun. But as I'm vlogging and going through this era, this is one of them that I watched the finale as well as the pilot. And by the finale, you had different angels. You had Tanya Roberts, who'd be famous in that 70s show later, did other things. And the formula was different. And wow, I don't know exactly what happened in the later seasons because I only watched the finale. But there's a couple ways to do a TV show finale, and there's just a terrible way. And they really did a terrible finale. It was sort of the typical, we're on a case, she gets shot, we're waiting around the hospital to see if she makes it while we reminisce about old cases. And in this case, how we met Tanya Roberts because she's new and how changes happened. And most of it is just old footage recycled other than the little bit of them in a yard before the shooting and sitting around the hospital. And it misses the mark. Whereas when I reviewed Alice, Mel's Diner, they did a really good finale of the same thing, right? So it's all in how it's done, where they're sitting around and they reminisce and then new things happen, and it's very emotional. And it just didn't have that feeling. Now, granted, I didn't watch the shows in the middle, just went to the finale. But still, the finale, it just, something about it was lacking. And it was one of those indicators of, you can see how a show had struggled and gone downhill. And you could see why it was ending. Because it was time for it to end. But it did start out well, and it was an interesting show, and it had those qualities. So go watch it, enjoy it, at least the early ones. Charlie's Angels.